Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. This is Bunch of Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are listening to The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. Time to join the conversation.
Hey, everybody. How's it going out there? Time for The Right of the People, as I just said. Unfortunately, the topic this week is pretty much, the
same as it's been all week.
Same as it's been all week for everybody. I imagine it's the big news that touches on the Second Amendment this week. We're going to talk about the school shooting in Florida. I'm sure everybody has heard about this, and that this Nicholas Cruz fella, that there were a lot of warning signs with him. It just seems like the entire thing was a failure of the existing system. Much like happened with the Sutherland Springs shooter. Over the past couple of days, it's come out that the FBI was notified in September that this Nicholas Cruz character made a comment on someone's YouTube channel about wanting to be a professional school shooter, and then they kind of half-ass investigated that. But let's see, where is this? I have this in let me get my phone here. There was a report that came out today that they received a tip about him in January planning something, and they didn't do anything about it. They didn't forward the information to their Miami field office. They didn't follow up on it in any way. They did zip, zilch, nada, nothing. This whole thing, in my opinion, screams to a multiple system failure. We had the fact that this kid was basically has a long history of involvement with the law, although he's never been arrested. He has a long history of mental health issues, though never any real treatment or solutions for it. He's had a long history of acting weird, acting crazy. All the classmates that have been interviewed have said that it's not a surprise at all that this kid did this. They expected that if anybody was going to do it, it was him. The school knew about him. He had, there were emails sent that he wasn't allowed to be on the campus with a backpack because he had brought bullets to school in his backpack before, and he'd made several threats, gotten in a bunch of fights. This kid was in all kinds of trouble. Yet none of that carried over, apparently, to when he became an adult and legally purchased his AR-15. How these systemic breakdowns happen, is something that I think that bears looking into. But since we know these systemic breakdowns happen, the question then becomes, what do we do about it? The big in the heart and small in the brain crowd is busily bleeding. Bah, bah, do something, bah, help us, keep it safe, bah. But they're not really offering any good alternatives. It always seems that same sorry refrain of good guys shouldn't have the guns because, bad guys have guns. And that makes absolutely no sense to me.
That works so well for cities that have really, really strict gun control laws.
Well,
look at Chicago. Oh, no. Chicago is the greatest example because didn't you hear the other day? One of the Chicago's police commanders was gunned down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How's that gun control working out for you, Chicago?
Well, it's a utopia. Don't let facts get in the way of the narrative, Night Strike.
And the guy that gunned that policeman down, he was like a 3-time felon.
Well, how can he have guns? It's against the law for him to have guns. If we pass laws, then everything's solved.
Yeah, you know, guns were legal already. Handguns were already illegal in Chicago. How did he get a gun?
It doesn't make any sense.
If he was already a 3-time criminal, how the hell did he get out of prison?
The NRA must have gave it to him.
Right.
And Trump. The NRA and Trump together sent it to his house.
And the GOA paid for his bail.
Yeah. That's it.
And no, what else?
Russia.
Yeah.
It was Russia.
Maybe it was a Russian gun. That's it.
Well, basically, probably Russia funneled the money through the NRA, which then the NRA bailed this guy out of jail with the Russian money. That's how that worked.
That's it. You know, all joking aside.
So wait, the NRA is in bed with the Russian mafia?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And they're actually investigating the NRA for that too.
Okay. Good. As long as they're going to investigate something and actually do some actual work, and not say they're going to investigate, do jack shit, and then get indicted for it.
Yep. Well, before we go any further on this, let me say hi to everybody out in the room. Out on the YouTube side, we got, let me scroll up here. Grim90, RL Swear, Midnight Range TM, Rob C, Rich White. Let me see if I can find anybody else. No, what's up? Roosted Films. Good to see all you guys. Albert Mitchell. Albert Mitchell, good to see you. Matter of fact, I don't think I've seen you before, so welcome to the chat. Andrew Faulkner, good to see you. Not sure who's on the gun channel side because my laptop's acting up and I can't quite see that. Here in the room, we got with us, we got 50 caliber Karma. How you doing, sir?
Oh, pretty good. Just got off work driving home, so I may be cutting in and out, but I'm here.
Well, don't wreck just to talk to us.
You guys are worth it. But no, I would not.
All right. Night Strike, what's going on?
I'm doing great. You know, hit or miss Tuesday nights, 9 o'clock. Friday Night Strike at 8 Eastern. On Friday. And what else? Yeah, check me out on YouTube. Night Strike 1. There we go.
Outstanding. Two Bobs, how's it going?
All right.
You don't have anything to plug or promote? I take it.
Not at this time.
Outstanding. Roll call, what's going on?
What's up, dude? You can catch me on YouTube, Roll Call 219, or you can catch me here Friday nights with Budget Guns and Gears.
Hey, Roll Call, where does the 209 come from?
The 219?
Your area code.
Yeah, the 219 is the area code that I live in.
Okay. Are you talking to somebody?
Hey, Two Bobs.
Yeah.
I'm going to mute you there, buddy. Because there's a lot of background noise coming through on you.
Oh, the background noise. Well, at least he wasn't doing any copyrighted content, you know.
Yeah, that's good.
You're not going to get dinged for that.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and unmute you, but mute yourself and unmute yourself when you want to talk, dude. I don't want anybody to be, you know, silenced and whatnot. If I can figure out how to unmute him, geez. There we go. We'll figure it out. Anyway, going on with this, you know, this whole thing has been a systemic failure with this. You know, a lot of opportunities to catch this and nip it in the bud, yet just seem to fall through the proverbial cracks. Unfortunately, the consequence of this was 17 people dead. And now, yet again, the usual suspects are singing their same old song of trying to penalize the rest of us for the actions of a nut job. You know, it's sad that this is something that we have to come to expect every single time someone does something criminal. We potentially have to pay for it. Of course, it's been like that for decades. You know, this is why the whole Gun Control Act came about in the 20s as a response to the criminal knuckleheads in the mob and the Prohibition era misusing their machine guns, and it's just snowballed from there.
So we blame all of this ultimately on people trying to ban booze.
No, but all that stuff was started by it. Yeah. That was kind of the beginnings of it in the 20s with the Gun Control Act and the National Firearms Act and whatnot, as a response to, ironically enough, the St. Valentine's Day massacre in good old Chicago. Yeah, I know, Rich. It's too late. I got my 102. I'll make a mistake every now and then. Hey, you know what? They deemed this live stream not suitable for monetization even before it even went on. So, what are they going to do?
Okay. Yeah. I released a video yesterday where I was just talking about tools that I use with gunsmithing, and I didn't say any type of guns whatsoever, hardly, other than maybe like the AR-15, and I only spoke. And here's the thing. They deemed that video too. Yeah. And I was just talking about tools.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous. Roosted Films says that 14 students, 3 teachers, and all anyone wants to talk about is gun control. What about the state of mental health programs and medication that our kids are pumped full of? Amen, man. You are preaching, because this is something I see every day in my job as a juvenile correction officer. These kids come in, they're pumped full of medications, and they're not really getting anything other than the medications. And
there's a problem, and don't take this the wrong way, because I've experienced some of this myself. I'm not going to go into detail, but I think the problem is that the way mental health is taken care of these days is a direct result of President Clinton's healthcare reform in the 90s. Because before he, I believe it was his second term. Okay, before his second term, we actually had a pretty good we had a pretty good system set up to take care of mental health. There were many companies, there were many nonprofits doing the whole helping people with mental health. But his second term, his healthcare reform basically gutted the entire system. And my family was affected because my father was a CFO for a corporation and at the top. And he lost the corporate vice president's job because of it. So, yeah, am I a little jaded towards the Clintons? Yes. Will I do anything? No. But that's not going to stop me from bitching about it.
Oh, sure.
My point is, though, without getting off topic, is we had a good system in place, but because of Democrats trying to fix something that's not broken all the time, they tore the system down. They basically bankrupted many, many companies that were doing mental health. And, well, this is where we're at now.
Well, the 80s and 90s gutted our mental health system. They defunded everything. They closed down the mental institutions that where people were actually getting some help. And if nothing else, they were amongst other people of the same with the same issues where they, might get some help and where they weren't in the general public. I see, like I've said, I see kids that have mental health issues come in and out all the time. They're constantly getting incarcerated. And it's not the place for them. The jail is not equipped to give them help. Sure, we can house them. We can do our best to keep them and other people safe from them. But in the end, we're not helping anything. We're kicking the can down the road.
Here's how it used to work with mental health, okay? Basically, either once or twice a week, they would go and talk to their therapist or psychiatrist. They would help them out and try and help them figure out where they need to go as far as, mental health, okay? And they would go, yes, they'd be prescribed medication, but then if they were in an institution, they would basically take the mental equivalent of like they would be in an AA meeting every day.
Yeah.
Okay. To try and get some of that whatever is making them awful out of them. But
yeah.
Now it's okay. Here's some medicine, and let's hope you get better. It's like, let's not air any of that out because we can't talk about that kind of thing in this environment.
Yeah.
And
Patriot in the Dark on the YouTube side says, I disagree. It's not a mental health issue. It's a lack of family and importance of people issue. I think you're both right. I think it is a mental health issue, and I think it is a lack of family and importance of people, and lack of empathy and lack of respect and lack of being taught about societal responsibility. Over the past 17 years, I've seen the kids that keep coming. Again, I go back to what I do for a living, but I keep seeing kids come in, and they get worse and worse and worse as the years go by because the parenting at home is getting worse or even less existent than it was. The culture that they're coming from, the environment that they're in, continues to be coarser and coarser, and places less and less value on other people.
I'm going to say he's right because that lack of family is what leads to mental health issue.
Sure.
That lack of environment leads to problems, with mental stability.
Rich White says that there's a combination of factors. Mental health and familial issues are both contributors, and I think that's exactly right. Absolutely right. This solution, and like I said to somebody earlier, the solution and the problem are both deeper than people are wanting to look. Our normal reaction as human beings tends to be, let's slap a Band-Aid on this. Let's cover up the boo-boo and try to do something that's quick, easy, and makes us feel good. But that's not necessarily the solution. I think there's a combination of factors that have to be involved in taking care of this. We have to address the mental health issue. We have to address the familial issues. We have to address the abhorrent lack of security in schools. If we're going to be talking specifically about school shootings, we have to look at the horrible state of security in schools. It's laughable. We protect our money in a freaking convenience store better than we do our kids in some places. And that isn't right. We spend trillions of dollars on bullshit programs that do nothing, help no one, and make no lasting impression on anything. We should funnel some of that money towards at least making sure our kids in our schools are protected. Hire qualified armed security. With all the wars we've been in lately, I'm sure there are hundreds upon thousands of veterans who would like to have a job doing that. Put their skills to work doing something positive in the civilian world. I know for a fact that it's not too difficult to secure entrance to a building. You place a metal detector there with armed security, and you have access, have the doors open from a central point with the video surveillance system that they can open and shut them remotely. It's not that bad. I work in a building where we do that all the time. If you don't have to have every door in there be like a prison, but you might want to have a little bit of security at your front and side gates. Just a thought. Sorry, I had to go on a rant.
No, keep going. Preach on.
Well, I want to add something here. So, I've gotten a lot of backlash on social media, especially my Twitter account. All right.
Oh boy, I bet.
And it's because of this. So a couple weeks ago, a kid in my area was getting bullied, a lot of pressure on him. So he ran his car into a pole and killed himself.
Oh, what
so this past week, we had a kid in our school system here start posting pictures like this guy did down there in Florida about getting a hold of a shotgun, posting pictures on Instagram. People kind of poked and prodded him, and he said, You know, you're not going to be laughing, and you're not going to be smiling when I have this gun pointed to you. Now, this is what I want to get to. Down there in Florida, they said it's a tight-knit community. Well, basically, my thoughts are you threw that kid away. The teachers didn't do their job. They didn't protect that kid. They turned their back on him. What we did here in my city is all the moms got on Facebook, contacted the police, contacted the school system, contacted the sheriff's office, and they searched for this kid for about a day and a half, picked him up, snatched him off the street, and now he's in jail. And everybody in the community contributed to tracking this kid down. So I don't believe that's a tight-knit community because they failed. They failed that kid. The police had multiple reports on this kid. The police failed him. The government failed him. Basically, that whole society down there failed that kid. And I've gotten backlash over that, but I'm going to tell you. So you have, in one hand, you have my community who came together, snatched this kid off the street, and reported him to the authorities, and he was caught before he could do anything as horrific as this kid did. And go ahead.
The reason why he was arrested was because he was threatening people terroristically. So they got him on that. So if you're going to ask what law he broke, he was trying to terrorize people, and that is actually a crime, guys, unfortunately.
But that kid down in Florida did the same thing, talking about he wanted to be a professional school shooter. You know, he was using, and nobody did anything. And that's what I'm comparing it to my community. My community is a tight-knit community, and that's the prime example of that. I hear on the news that that was the best community. We all stick together. I think they failed that child as a community as a whole. Well, and I've gotten a lot of backlash on that.
They said they had expelled him, so after they kick him out of the school, he's not their problem anymore, right?
Nope, of course not. That's how they look at it anyway.
Well, the problem is once they kick him out, he's no longer their problem. So what do they care? And unfortunately, that's the wrong attitude to take with a child. Even if he is 18 or 19 years old, he's still not 21. So technically, he still can't drink. But the issue is because of that, because they threw him away and they said, "Oh, we washed our hands of him. He's not our problem anymore." They got this.
And I believe
Roosted out in the chat has an extremely valid point, and it's something I've been carping on for years in my job. He says, jail won't help these kids. I'm glad your community noticed, but really what happens if there is no follow-through after the initial contact? And he is spot on. You know, kids come and go in and out of jail all the time. And when they go back to the same environment, when they go back to the same problems, really they're very prone to make the same choices and try to use the same solutions. You must, if you want to put a stop to this problem with kids, you must invest more in aftercare. You must invest more in mentoring. You must invest more in doing everything you can to make these kids incentivized to make a positive change. If you just throw them in jail, lock them up for 90 days, which is what the maximum you can hold them in detention in Ohio is, if they're not sentenced to the state DYS, Department of Youth Services, it's just 90 days. Lock them up for up to 90 days, kick them back out on the streets. They're in the same place doing the same stuff, and they're going to get the same results. You know, Roosted is right on that. Kalashnikov says it was the FBI's fault. Well, the FBI does have some culpability in this. You know, here's an article I wanted to talk about. Let me pull that back up. Here it is. This is a piece from NBC News. It says the FBI got tip on alleged Florida shooter Nicholas Cruz in January, but didn't follow protocols. Less than 6 weeks before Nicholas Cruz committed one of the deadliest school shootings in American history, someone who knew him called an FBI tip line to complain about him, the agency revealed on Friday, but no one followed up. Cruz allegedly fatally shot 17 people and injured many, allegedly, yeah, in a Wednesday attack on his former school, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. In a statement, the FBI said a person close to Cruz called the agency's public tip line on January 5th and left information on Cruz's gun ownership, desire to kill people, erratic behavior, and disturbing social media posts, as well as the potential of him conducting a school shooting. The tip should have been assessed as a potential threat to life and forwarded to the Bureau's Miami field office for investigation. We have determined that these protocols were not followed, the agency said. FBI Director Christopher Wray said that in a statement that the Bureau is trying to figure out how the mistake occurred, particularly because the Bureau asked the public to be vigilant against threats and share them with the authorities. He also acknowledged the suffering the revelation will cause victims, survivors, and their families. We have spoken with victims and families and deeply regret the additional pain this causes all those affected by this horrific tragedy, Wray said. Wray's admission focused more criticism on the FBI, which has come under pressure from President Donald Trump and other Republicans over its handling of the investigations into the Trump's 2016 campaign and that of his rival. Well, what the hell does that have to do with this? Why would they even put this in that article? Florida Governor Rick Scott on Friday called for Wray to resign. I agree. He should quit, and shame. We constantly promote see something, say something, and a courageous person did just that to the FBI, and the FBI failed to act, Scott said. See something, say something is an incredibly important tool, and people must have confidence in the follow-through from law enforcement. Marco Rubio from Florida called on Congress to investigate FBI's tip-checking protocols. Jeff Sessions ordered an immediate review of the mistake and of the protocols for responding to tips. It is now clear that the warning signs were there and tips to the FBI were missed. We see the tragic consequences of those failures, Sessions said. Chris Grady, a 19-year-old senior who survived the shooting, said the victims might be alive today if they'd done their job. Our government is failing us, Grady said. They need to do their freaking jobs. I'm sorry, but this is so infuriating. You know what? I can't blame the young man. This is absolutely ridiculous that the FBI failed in this staggering fashion. You know, if you're Joe Bob and you work in a plastics plant and you don't have the temperature set right on your oven, you know, something might come out wrong. You might get parts that run horrible, but no one's going to die from it. If you're in the FBI and you don't follow protocols on someone turning in a tip of someone who's potentially going to shoot up a school, that's criminally negligent. And frankly, not only should you lose your damn job, you should go to prison too. What do you guys think?
I think he should be fired, and I think the family should look into compensation. I think they should sue the government. I think they should sue that police department. I think they should sue everybody that they can get their hands on and get some sort of compensation. It'll never bring back the child, but yet hopefully this will really teach the government, just like they did with the Texas shooter, the dude that shot the church. The Air Force botched that one and didn't stick his paperwork into the NICS system, and he got a hold of a gun. This is another screw up by the government.
Nothing.
Yeah, what happened with that? Nothing. I don't hear nothing about that.
I haven't heard anything about anybody even being disciplined over that. And that's bullshit. If you do something, if you make a mistake of this magnitude, you need to be held accountable.
I mean, if I do something negligent at my job, I will either lose it or I'll get suspended without pay. And you know, I haven't heard anything happen to that degree to the people that are investigating these crimes. And another thing is, who is responsible for the Vegas investigation that botched that one? I haven't heard about anybody getting fired or getting disciplined for that botched debacle that they tried to do over there in Vegas.
Ozark Yeoman says, we all just want to blame someone or something. Frankly, I'm going to go show some kid that doesn't have a dad how to change a tire and do something positive with his energy and feel meaningful.
And that's what you should
Bravo,
do.
sir.
That's what you should do if you can.
That's what you should do. That's what all of us should do. That's part of the reason why I've spent my entire adult life working with kids, because I work in juvenile corrections. I work in a detention center now. I used to work in a secure treatment facility for juvenile felons, where we would do that kind of mentoring thing and mental health thing with the kids who have been convicted of felonies, but they aren't quite lost yet, where we try to bring them back from it. And even though I'm working in detention now, and it's basically I'm going to warehouse you until you go to court, and then when you go to court, I'll keep you until the judge says I'll let you go. While they're with me, we teach all day, every day, particularly work on trying to teach these empathy skills. So all of us should be doing this in some fashion or another. If you know a kid in your neighborhood that needs some help and some guidance, don't hesitate to try to reach out. You could be that thing that makes the difference.
I want to add to that is another thing that would really, really benefit communities is something like Clover talked about, which is like 4-H. G-Web's talked about Boy Scouts. Something to lift these kids' spirits. All they're doing nowadays is sitting on a computer, on a game system. They're not experiencing life. They think things should be handed to them. And, those programs are so beneficial, but yet are never encouraged on children at this juncture that we're at. And that's something that is a huge skill building lesson for these kids to go out there and be educated instead of eating Tide Pods and sniffing glue and playing video games.
Yep. Roosted says that he thinks it's ridiculous for us that don't want gun control to complain about the FBI and failed background checks. On one hand, I see what you're saying, but on the other, I think that it's absolutely reasonable for us as citizens of this country and taxpayers to complain about a federal agency not doing its job properly that resulted in the deaths of people. I'm not so much complaining about the background checks and why he passed the background check and whether or not he should have been on the NICS list. I'm complaining about the fact that they were given a tip that this kid might kill somebody and they didn't bother to follow it up. I mean, that's my complaint.
I mean, the least they could have done is just sat him down, bought the kid coffee, and just talked with him and asked him why he was acting like this. That's the least they could have done. Showed some interest in his life.
Now, that being said, and all of the aforementioned being said about treatment and mental health care and whatnot, that doesn't excuse and it does not absolve him of responsibility for his actions. Ultimately, he's a grown man and he's responsible for the choices he made.
Oh, obviously, but you also have to realize that people who do this aren't all there in the first place. They are, they do have something mentally wrong with them, and they are damaged goods themselves. That doesn't mean I still don't want them to get help, but the problem is they are still responsible for the actions that they commit. And if they go and do something to hurt people and kill people, yeah, he should still be in prison, but that doesn't mean I don't still want to see him get help.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I see what you're saying.
He's probably going to spend the rest of his life in prison, or if that state does have the death sentence, he may get the death sentence. That still doesn't mean he shouldn't try and clean up his act.
Yeah. Well, while he's in prison, he may informally get the death sentence.
Yeah.
Particularly if any of his victims are known by anyone he's with.
I hope
go ahead, Ro. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say, I hope they just don't let him sit there and rot away, and he ends up hanging himself in his cell. I hope he gets some kind of help to, I mean, I don't want the guy out of jail.
He's on an eye-to-eye watch right now. I would be very surprised if he weren't.
Yeah, because that's just another kid that's going to lose his life. I think we've had enough of loss of life.
Part of the problem, and I'll tell you now from my personal experience, is that our juvenile justice system is catch and release for the most part. They catch them.
Most of our prison system.
They do almost nothing to them. Then they let them go without any follow-up or aftercare, like I said earlier. This guy was involved with law enforcement over 36 times, was never arrested, never got any help via diversion programs or anything like that. He completely fell through the cracks over and over and over. You know, hell, as a matter of fact, just last night, I couldn't be on Clover's show after hours because I had intakes that I had to do. And we got a couple kids in on multiple felonies, you know, 2 counts of both of them had 2 counts of B&E, arson. One of them had possession of criminal tools, carrying concealed weapons, and criminal damaging or endangering. They burned a house, broke in, burned a house to the ground, and then broke into a gun club and had guns and bolt cutters and all kinds of crap on them. You know, multiple felonies. I called in today to check up on them. They were released this afternoon by one of our local judges. That's part of the problem. Kalashnikov says, Kalashnikov 108 says, concealed carry should be allowed on all school campuses to prevent something like this. I would tend to agree. I think that concealed carriers, by and large, have been proven. You know, the data shows that we are the most law-abiding segment of society. But if the will isn't there to allow that to happen, which Massey from Kentucky is actually has a bill to propose that very thing on a federal level to do away with the gun-free schools garbage at the federal level, so that the states don't have to carve out an exemption. Anyway,
here I got an email I gotta forward to you. So hold on.
Okay.
Because I know Sean, what is it, Caminera from Florida Carry.
Mm-hmm.
And they submitted a statement today on the whole thing too.
Good.
So I'm going to send you that so you can take a look at that.
Okay.
See, the state of Indiana has a bunch of legislation that's pro-gun, and a couple pieces are giving teachers proper training to conceal and carry in schools and doing away with gun-free zones. I say it repeatedly. Gun-free zones do not work. It is a fallacy. And I hope they're not gun-free. I don't understand whoever made that up.
Honor that.
It behooves me to see that.
Gun-free zones are only targets for criminals. Get that in your thick heads.
And no sign is going to prevent. No sign will ever prevent this kind of tragedy. Just today, my daughter came home and said that their teachers are discussing at least getting tasers in their school because they had some lost soul kid threatening and doing his thing today that they suspended from school. So hopefully that school, that police department checks up on this kid. I mean, this is what's going to happen now is going to be copycats. You know, they're going to look at this kid and be like, look, you know, he got his revenge and this is the way to do it, you know, and that's something we have to keep our eye on, especially in my community. We're all going to keep an eye on the kid that did it in the school by my house and now my daughter's school because she goes to a different school in a different school district. See, so now you're seeing these kids come out of the woodwork that, you know, either are getting picked on or they might have some kind of mental problem going on or some kind of home life problem. So this is where you have to really keep an eye on these kids and start pointing them in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely right. I just read that email, Night Strike. That's a powerful statement, and it dovetails absolutely perfectly with what we've been saying here.
I just figured you should check it out because it's from a group in Florida that's trying to get open carry and constitutional carry in the state of Florida.
Yep, and getting rid of the gun-free zones in Florida. You know,
whether they'll be successful or not, time will tell.
Because I know that Florida, I have it somewhere here in my stack of stuff for show prep. that the Florida law that prohibits having anyone be armed in a school, and except for law enforcement in the commission of their duties. And that's just, it's insane to me. You know, these three faculty members there who lost their lives, who ran into the sound of gunfire and put themselves between this Nicholas Cruz kid and the rest of the students. You know, if those guys had been armed, how could this have ended a lot differently? You know,
from what I gathered today, the assistant football coach, I think it is.
Yeah,
he was the security guard for the school.
Yeah.
So you're going to make him the security guard and not give him some type of weapon? So
Well,
he had to use his body as his weapon and lose his life. That it's ridiculous.
He put himself and I wish I could find the doggone article. I had it up earlier. He put himself, him and two others put themselves in between the shooter and the victims, and you know, saved who knows how many people in the process by taking the attention away from the kids. But I can't help but think that it would have been different if they had had the means with which to be able to stop this kid from doing what he was doing. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional about it. It's just I'm trying to put myself in that position.
I'm gonna jet out. I'm gonna go get some food, and then I gotta start the Friday night strike. So, Budget, thank you for the invite. I will see you on the flip side.
Here, man. Don't forget, hit or miss Tuesday nights, 9:00.
Remember, Friday night strike, 8 Eastern.
8 Eastern. Matter of fact, you can just go from here to there, guys.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
All righty. We'll see you in a bit. I think, you know, with all this horrible news and bad things that are going on, we need to have something positive to wrap up the show on. So, going to do another self-defense shout out. This goes out to a driver in I want to say, shoot, where is this? Finley, where? In Minnesota. So
I like
driver intervenes in Fridley road rage, shoots man wielding knife, police say. A shooting on Minnesota 65 in Fridley left one person seriously injured and snarled traffic during rush hour on Wednesday afternoon, police say. This will be this past Wednesday, the 14th. Officers were dispatched about 4:20 p.m. to the scene of a crash at Minnesota 65 and Central Avenue and Medtronic Parkway, according to the news release issued by Fridley Police. Multiple 911 callers reported that a man involved in the crash was armed with a knife and was attempting to assault another driver. While officers were en route, a motorist who was not involved in the crash stopped his car to intervene, the news release said. This man was armed with a handgun and shot the knife-wielding man several times, according to the news release. The wounded man was rushed to a hospital with life-threatening injuries. The man who shot him remained at the scene, excuse me, and is cooperating with investigators, the news release said. The second person who was injured in the crash was also taken to the hospital with injuries that were not considered life-threatening. The incident closed the freeway for about 5 hours. So there we have it, while on the same day that those good guys, 3 good guys, were sacrificing their lives in a vain attempt to stop one madman with a gun, one good guy who had the means to be able to defend himself and others stopped one criminal with a knife from hurting someone else. That contrast shows you the victim, the gun-free zone fallacy, and how they're actually victim zones. You know, I made up the t-shirt today because it occurred to me that creating more sheep or making more sheep only creates more wolves. And that's how it is. If you turn people into helpless sheep unable to defend themselves, the wolves love it.
Yes, they do.
As a matter of fact, you know, and I've wondered for a moment, when are the gun grabbers going to realize this? But the fact is, they already do. It's their whole point.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
talking
the
rank
whole
and
thing.
file Democrat voter. I'm talking the leadership and the politicians here. They already know this. They want to create more sheep because the sheep are wonderful to the shepherds, those who own the flock, because then the shepherds get to fleece them and use them for their own benefit and without any regard for the sheep, which is why they want more of them.
Yep, and that's how they gain votes.
That's it. Because the sheep are, you know, much like the brethren in Animal Farm, you know, 2 legs, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. You know, government good, guns are bad. Government good, guns are bad is all that they can bleat anymore. Because as long as they keep getting their free phones and all the other benefits.
Yep.
So, you have anything to plug, roll call?
Let me see here. Keep on tuning in to the Right of the People. I'd like to thank Gear Websites. I received my package today. I love the patch. It's on my hat already. And my stickers. Please go and check out everybody's channel. I'm on my page, on Budget's page. Great content there. It's a great community. Go join gunchannels.com. It's free. That's like I guess like a local watering hole for guns. And if you have any questions, they'll be happy to answer them. They've helped me and they will help you.
Yep. Outstanding. Garand Man out in the chat says Buckeye Firearms has a program to get Ohio school personnel to carry. Absolutely. The FASTER program, FASTER. I don't know offhand what the acronym stands for, but it's a program that they have in place to train school personnel on active shooter scenarios and train them to carry firearms so that certain personnel within the schools that subscribe to this are able to carry. My local school, as a matter of fact, has sent teachers to this, and there's a big old sign on the window that says that we have armed personnel, and you'll be any attempt to harm our kids will be met with deadly force. I think it's great. There are places that are trying to export this to their states. I think the Buckeye Firearms Association has done a tremendous and outstanding job in doing this. You know, this is something that they've had in place for the last several years, and you know, unfortunately, this week's events showcases why that should be the norm rather than the exception. Okay, time for me to plug now. Obviously, you guys are aware, Friday nights at 7 p.m., The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second. I'm glad that you guys came and were part of the conversation. That's, you know, I'm never going to give up doing my produced content because I enjoy doing that as well. But man, since I've started doing the live stream, this has really become great because I love the engagement and feedback I get from you, the viewers. You guys are awesome. I mean, honestly, I can't believe that I have 14 people still listening to me blather on about nothing. This is great. If you guys want to support the channel, I'm going to be going to the United States Concealed Carry Association's Concealed Carry Expo in April. If you want to help me do that, I have a bunch of Guns and Gear Classic logo stickers, the shield shape, still available. Those are $3.50 each, 2 for $6. Just shoot me an email and let me know if you want some. If you want to go on over to my Spreadshirt store right after the broadcast here, I'll put a link in the description below to that. A lot of Second Amendment friendly designs there on shirts that you can get, and I get a chunk of that profits. So if you guys want to help out, that's how you can do it. You can also go to Patreon and become a budget buddy. I've got several different levels now. The budget buddy, the good buddy, better buddy, and best buddy. As you go up, the higher you go, the more perks you get. So till next week, come on back, folks. Maybe we'll learn something together. Be Be part of the conversation here with us. Have a good one.